black person. Even in Egypt today, the Egyptians today, they think that they are actually the descendants of the ancient Egyptians. They actually think they are the descendants of the pharaohs. But this is not true, because if we know history, and it's all over the place, the Arabs began the conquest of North Africa in the 7th century. In the year 622, they departed from Arab lands. They came through North Africa, Tunisia, Egypt, and they entered there. And when the Arab conquered these places, they eliminated the people that were living there, enslaved black people that were living there. Many were taken to the Arabs' lands to work like slaves. Males were castrated, women were given to the Arabs. These Arab enslavers drove a lot of black people away from North Africa, from ancient Egypt. The population was changed, the demographic, the religion was changed, everything was changed. But what we see today in Egypt does not at all reflects the reality in ancient Egypt. The people are not the same, because the ancient Egyptians were black people like me. The language is no more the same. Belief, many things are no more the same. And we need to let this fact sink, because it's the truth, and you cannot fight the truth. This takes us to the same whole issue. People keep asking themselves, were ancient Egyptians black, Arabs, or white people? Let me make it clear right now. Ancient Egyptians were not Arabs. They were not Arabs at all. I've just told you about where the Arabs came from and when they conquered North Africa. We know that ancient Egyptians lived thousands of years before those era. So the ancient Egyptians were not Arabs. We can be at peace with that. We can just leave it alone. We come to the second question. Were they white, Europeans, or Caucasians? This is also a big no. Archaeologists had the opportunity to go into the tombs of the pharaohs. They have seen the paintings that you can see. You can see these paintings, and you see ancient Egyptians painting themselves as black people. The paintings you see in the murals in these tombs are actually black people. They didn't lack the paint to really paint white skin. And we can see different shades of black in these paintings. From dark black to brown to light brown. You see all of them here. And this represents exactly Africa today, where you have many shades of black. From the upper land you have the brown. You go from light brown to dark chocolate to dark black skin. You know what's up. So when you look at the murals in Egypt, you know these people are black. When you look at the facial traits of these people, you know these are black. So ancient Egyptians were not white. Were they black people? Yes. This is the answer you need to know. Ancient Egyptians were actually black people, as black as me, as black as a man or a woman from Sudan, from Ethiopia, from Senegal, from Madagascar. These were black people. You know why people don't want to acknowledge that they were black people? Why white people always want to say these were white people? Why Arabs want to say these were Arabs? They could be anything but black people. Why? And the reason is, everything actually started in ancient Egypt. Mathematics, science, medicine, astrology, astronomy, everything started in ancient Egypt. And the knowledge that ancient Egyptians had, they passed this knowledge to the next civilizations. And this same knowledge that started back in ancient Egypt thousands of years ago here in Africa by black people is the same technology we use today. The fact is, ancient Egyptians actually started civilization, technology, and everything. White people, Europeans, learned from ancient Egyptians. They learned what they know today from black people, from our ancestors. This can be surprising to even the people who live in Africa today, because this is the part of history that has been hidden from us, that has been whitewashed. Greek philosophers wrote in their own books that ancient Egyptians were black. The Greek came to learn in Egypt. They learned and studied from Egypt. They took the knowledge, they took it to Europe. And the Greek civilizations. And then they passed this same knowledge to the Romans. After the Greek civilization collapsed, the Romans took over. They passed the civilization to the Romans, and so on and so forth. And today we have the same thing. So European, when he came to Africa during colonization, white European came to Africa. He wrote in our history books that he found our ancestors naked. They didn't know anything. My friend, this is a big lie. The pharaohs in Egypt were our ancestors, and many other kingdoms of Africa. But today I want to dwell on ancient Egypt. they don't want to acknowledge that ancient Egyptians were black, because this is going to put into question their propaganda. Now, if they acknowledge that ancient Egypt were black, this white supremacist idea, this conception that white race is superior to the black race, is going to fall down, because it cannot stand, as it's not holding any water. The truth is that it is not the white people that brought civilization to Africa, but the contrary is true. Africans actually took civilizations to Europe. So now we can be at peace that ancient Egyptians were black. But I have one proof I want to bring to you about ancient Egyptians being black. Actually, I'm bringing you two proofs. The number one is this sandal you are seeing here. This sandal you are seeing here belongs to a king in ancient Egypt who lived 3,300 years ago. This is King Tutankhamun, King Tut. For those who know, the tomb of King Tut was discovered in the 1920s. And what they found inside the tomb was amazing. Proof of high knowledge and technology. But again, proof that the ancient Egyptians were black. Because you can see on the sandal, you see two images. You see a young man and an older man. This young man here, I believe, is the King Tutankhamun himself, because this is the sandal that he wore, and this is the sandal that he was buried with. And you can see on the other side, this older man here is probably the uncle of King Tutankhamun. Let me take you back a little bit. When King Tutankhamun was supposed to be king, he was very young, so he had to be helped by his uncle, who I believe is on the picture. And so when he became of age, the king became king and he took power. Unfortunately, he died young. He died around 18 years old. His tomb, where he was buried, everything was found there, including this sandal I'm showing you right here. So this young man is the king to me, and this older man is his uncle to me, because I don't believe in the world that a white king would have a sandal and represent a black person on those sandals. No. Ancient Egyptians used to represent themselves on their relics. They represent themselves on the murals in their tombs. They represented themselves on everything around them. And we can see on the sandal. And out of this picture, we can see that the King Tutankhamun was black. His uncle was black. If the king and the uncle was black, this is a proof that the subject, the people in ancient Egypt, were actually black people, sub-Saharan Africans. This is clear. But you're going to find people that are going to continue to refuse and deny, because if they accept, they are turning upside down the unbelief with which they spread across the world, false belief that white race is superior to black race because white race brought civilization. And this is not the truth. The second proof I want to bring to you is this picture of two armies. We have the army of Egypt and the army of Sudan, which was called Nubia back then. Europeans, when I talk about Europeans, I'm talking about archaeologists and Europeans and even Arabs and Egyptians today. They found so many evidence in ancient Egypt relics and in the finds that ancient Egyptians were actually black people. In order for them to try to cover it, they came with a theory which is very lame. They said, in fact, Sudan or Nubia were black people, and the Egyptians were not black people. They were either Arabs or white people, as they tend to claim. And they say everything you see about black people in ancient Egypt is probably from Nubia, and it's not from Egypt. But good enough, we have these two representations here of two armies from Nubia and from ancient Egypt. Two black kingdoms of the same time, of the same epoch or the same era. Look at the way they represent themselves. Look at these pictures. What difference do you see? I see no damn difference. I see two armies, two people of the same race. Two sub-Saharan black African armies. You can see that the ancient Egyptians resemble the ancient Sudanese, and there is no difference at all. These are the same people. So how come you can tell me that there were two different races? No, this is a big lie. Ancient Egyptians were as black as ancient Sudanese, as black as all Africans, sub-Saharan Africans, right now, including all the shades of black. We never get the chance to tell our own stories. The people who invaded us, enslaved us, and colonized us are the ones who told our stories for us. And they told our stories falsely. They took away from us even our histories. Not only our wealth, not only our manpower, but even our history. the hatred I'm seeing from other people, from the racist world, realize that we are black people. We are proud of being black people, and we have contributed in the civilization that we have today, because what we have today started in our kingdom in ancient Egypt. Every black people must feel proud, must have dignity. The reason why we're doing this, trying to share the truth, is to rebuild dignity in the hearts and soul of our people. We can do it. But the first step is to open the minds of people, because right now it's mental slavery. People are being brainwashed into believing they're worthless just because they're black, into believing they don't belong to history. They never had a contribution to history. Everything they have is aid, is help, is by pity.